I'm on IG. All right, I'm live on YouTube. Uh, Hopefully this mic's working. I actually got a brand new mic. So shout out to my friend Garrett. He always keeps on saying, "Hey man, you need to invest in a mic." So on YouTube, I'm using this mic, but on IG, I'm just using my phone. So maybe eventually I'm gonna figure out either get a mic for my phone or something. But yeah, we're gonna test out this mic. It's a HyperX SoloCast. Got it off of Amazon. It's like 40 or $50. So excuse me, it's definitely on the cheaper end, but I think it would probably drastically improve sound quality. So yeah, I might look into something if I can hook this up to my phone for like weekly tips. That'd be awesome. But yeah, we're gonna check this out, and I'll be actually very upset. Looks like it's working. Actually, haven't tried this beforehand, but it is good to be back. It's been a while since I've done a live. The last one I did was Valentine's Day, so that was a good couple weeks ago. Um, so I apologize for that. I got sick, and then my brother came into town, so I was pretty busy with that and midterms and everything. But we are back, and I was thinking of topics more I wanted to talk about. But 'cause my whole thing is, like I said, stronger, smarter, healthier, wealthier. Trying to get guys to level up their life, and like I said, I was sick a week and a half ago. So kind of the topic of health was in my head just because I was pretty sick. I'm pretty sure I had the flu or something, I had a fever, was coughing, was congested. Then I took decongestion medicine, and then my nose started running all the time and sore throat. I had the works, so I'm pretty sure it was something like the flu. But you can't really do anything if you're not healthy. Whether you're young, I'm 25, so I'm relatively young in the prime of my life, and you don't get sick as much. But I was a pretty sickly kid growing up. I guess I'll kind of start with that. So, growing up, I had a bunch of things wrong with me. I always got sick all the time. I had really bad asthma as a kid, and I was allergic to the certain type of medicine that they typically use. I don't remember exactly what it's used for per se, but this medicine, if I take it, I started having seizures and stuff. So took it as a kid, start having seizures. They're like, huh, well, it's like put him in the hospital and see what's wrong with him. Can figure it out. So they're like, we'll give him a super small dose of this medicine again, see if he has an adverse reaction to it. And yeah, you can expect that. Yeah, I had another seizure, so it's like, all right, I can't have that medicine. If I probably take that medicine, then I could die. So I was a sickly kid growing up. But then kind of going from like middle school to high school to graduating to being in college, I've been relatively healthy. Like I don't get sick that often. I know a lot of people, on my mission, they got sick all the time. Like I got sick for maybe a day or two. But I typically get sick once a year. It's usually the year annual flu that kind of goes around. I did not get a flu vaccine this year, so honestly, most of the years that I take one, I don't get sick, so I should probably do that. But staying healthy is really important, just because when you're not healthy, you're sick or you have some sort of ailment, impairment, disease that you have to deal with. You're not like you, and you're not normal, and it restricts your life a lot. Like I was sick, I had a fever, I was coughing, I couldn't breathe. It was hard for me to sleep. My roommate is funny because there was a couple nights where I just slept on the couch. Because the reason why I slept on the couch, because just laying down horizontally in my bed, just because it's like my bed and then there's a wall right next to, like, right at the head of my bed. So it's either I lay horizontal and I can, like, put my pillows where I can, like, somewhat lean up, but I would always slide down because there's nothing solid that was an incline there. So if I was laying horizontally in bed, then I would just cough all the time because all of like my snot and stuff would like go from my nose down to my throat into my lungs, and that made me cough and have mucus, and it's just miserable. So I would sleep on the couch. A couple nights I did this where because the couch it has like the arm of the couch at the end. So I would be at an incline, like a 45-degree angle. It was like enough of an angle where all that crap wouldn't just go into my lungs, into my chest. But I was deep inclined enough where I could somewhat sleep and get some rest. So yeah, those nights I got like 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep if I'm lucky, but I woke up throughout the night. It's pretty bad, but that's why health is super important. Stay healthy. That way you can live your life how you want to live. You can accomplish your purpose. You can do the things that you need to do. Just because, guys, I mean, we're on our purpose. We have to work. We have to finish our school assignments. We don't have the luxury, and just like anyone in general, a lot of, especially when you start piling on responsibilities and you're in charge of people and start having a family, start having kids, like as a parent, I'm not a parent yet, but I've seen what my siblings have even gone through with small children. If the kid's crying and taken care of, doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter if you don't feel like doing it, you got to take care of them. So there's just stuff you have to do. And the more you're healthy, the more you can stay healthy, prevent illness, prevent health problems while you're young. And I think it's important to build a lot of these habits and focus on this stuff when you're young, because you never know when something comes around and you're 40, 50, 60, and it's happening more nowadays, but where you'll have a sickness or you have cancer. I know a ton of people that have gotten cancer. My mom works uh, in a clinic that she treats chemo patients, so she sees it all the time. It's very common. So what can we do to prevent that? That's kind of what I want to talk about. And I'm no doctor, I'm no specialist. I looked up a couple studies, and I'll share a couple of things I thought that were really interesting that a lot of people might not know. But I'd say there's kind of some basics to keeping yourself healthy, especially as a dude. So I kind of break it down into one, two, three, four. It's like four or five different areas: diet, exercise, sleep, and then adjusting to getting older. Just your body, because the older you get, I'd say when you're a guy, it's like 30, 35, 40. You're like, it's a clear physical decline. Your body, you can't do the stuff that you used to do. And that's the nature of stuff. But why focus health at a young age? Why focus on health at a young age? I looked at a couple studies. One was a Johns Hopkins study, and talk about like 4 ways to live longer. First one, don't smoke. Obvious, just because smoke is literally linked to cancer, lung cancer, all types of cancers, and drastically will lower your life expectancy. But I kind of add on to that as well. It's from the Book of Mike, but I'd say don't do drugs either. It's interesting. There was like a valuetainment thing, and they thought it was really interesting, like the leading causes of death between people. Obviously, older people, it's a lot of illnesses, old age, stuff like that. But I was interested in, they're talking about younger people, so younger adults, and specifically, I'd say like 18 to 35 or 18 to 30. And I did some of my own research as well. Highest cause of death among younger adults. This is 25 to 34, so my age range, a little bit older. It's people in their 20s, 30s, is poisoning. And poisoning could be really broad, but it could be anywhere from, I mean, people think of poisoning, they're like, oh, drink bleach or whatever, but a lot of it is linked to taking drugs. And it could be any type of drugs. It could be the hardcore stuff, the other stuff, just because, I mean, it's a big problem in the US right now, the fentanyl crisis. And a lot of drugs, I wouldn't say a lot, but there is some drugs that could possibly be laced with this fentanyl. And literally one dose of it, doesn't matter if it's weed, doesn't matter if it's alcohol, doesn't matter if it's cocaine or whatever. But any small amount that's laced into these drugs, take it one time, you're dead, and it's game over. So stay away from that stuff. Maintain a healthy weight. So that's super important, especially nowadays. A lot of people are overweight, they're obese. It's crazy. It's like, what percentage of adults are considered overweight? I think it's like 60 or 70%. And then like obese, which is like, I forget the exact definition of it, but obese people, I want to say it's like 30 or 40% of people, which is insane. And granted, people are different, they have different body types, but it goes down to eating, moving more than you consume, essentially. You move more, and that's the second thing. To maintain it, it's actually these next two points, tips to live longer out of four are exactly correlated to maintaining a healthy weight. Get up and move, so exercise, and then last one is make healthy food choices. So those are kind of the two ingredients to maintaining a healthy weight. And yeah, a lot of it's kind of like how you're raised and your lifestyle. Like my mom's Japanese, so we grew up in a Japanese household. None of my siblings are overweight. We're all in good shape, and we're all healthy. And just because that's just how we grew up. We didn't eat a lot of we barely ate desserts. We rarely ate out. We would eat fruits and vegetables all the time. Even though as a kid I hated it. I'm not a big vegetable person. I love fruit, so I'll eat a ton of fruit. But I'm still not a huge vegetable person. But also I try to throw in some spinach and carrots, and I'm not a salad guy. I never was. I don't think I ever will be. I don't like eating leaves, but I do eat spinach, so I guess that's leaves. But that was just kind of normal to us, and it's funny. I never really had a sweet tooth until I was older, but um, every Sunday we would that would be the one meal we had dessert. Guess what our dessert was? It was Jello, typical like Mormon church thing, but we had Jello. And that was the only dessert we had, other than like birthday parties and stuff, where we would have cakes and stuff, or Christmas and Thanksgiving. But yeah, it was just not normal, and we ate a lot of poultry, ate a lot of fish, ate a lot of good proteins, a lot of just a good balanced diet, and then of course exercise. As kids, we were required to do a sport and play an instrument, so good for in building up your intellectual ability as well as physical ability too. And a lot of my siblings, or a couple of my siblings, they were not physically, athletically talented whatsoever, but they tried, and that was what was important. So make healthy food choices. So those are the four tips. Don't smoke, maintain a healthy weight, get up and move, and maintain or make healthy food choices. That was the four ways to live longer from Johns Hopkins study. Another study, according to Harvard Health, and this is specifically towards men, but the average man pays less attention to his health than the average woman, which is, I would say, is true, because women, they have a lot of extra stuff they have to kind of monitor, especially when they're carrying a child and having babies and stuff like that. They monitor the health, and because they need to. Men are more likely to drink alcohol, use tobacco, make risky choices, not see a doctor for regular checkups, which is true. Luckily, just because of my beliefs, and I don't think there's really any benefit to alcohol or tobacco or any type of drugs, so I don't really have an issue with that. Risky choices, I mean, we're dudes. Like, we like to drive fast cars, fast machines, take risks, bungee jump, skydive, stuff like that, run red lights, impress people. So we do make riskier choices. I think the third one is probably the most interesting one, and the one that guys can kind of focus on the most, is not seeing a doctor for regular checkups. So this is going to go to the first part, even before diet. I think I'm a big proponent of just tracking stuff and just knowing stuff about you, your health, what your body's going through. Not only that, but I mean, just like all aspects of your life, whether that be physically, financially, emotionally, mentally, intellectually. Like, you should know what kind of like where your baseline, like what your, for example, financially, what your expenses are, how much you're spending, how much money you're making, where is, if the money you are spending, where is it going to? What different categories? Are you spending a lot of money on food, or are you spending a lot of money on clothes, or are you spending a lot of money on experiences? Like, where are you making your money? You're making most of your money just off your income or passive income or investments, or it's really important to keep track of that stuff, because you know where your baseline is. And that's the same thing with health. It's like, all right, we don't really like to go to the doctor and stuff. I feel that. Especially in the United States, it's like you go to the doctor when you're sick, and you have to be really sick to go to the doctor, just because you don't want your insurance premiums to go up. You don't want to pay the copay, you don't want to pay out of pocket. It makes sense, but I think there are certain things that are really important. And I'd say for guys, probably one of the most important things is one checkups. I mean, your yearly physicals and exams just to make sure you're healthy and stuff. But the big thing and one thing I'm gonna start doing at least every once a year, it's actually gonna be kind of like I guess my birthday present for myself, but get blood work done. Like, know what your levels are, and people will think of blood work. It's like, oh, all right, especially the big thing now is like testosterone, TRT, and stuff. Like measuring your testosterone level, your free testosterone, your total for testosterone, and stuff like that. Just making sure you're at good levels. But it's not only that, you can check for a lot of stuff. There's like a whole laundry list. It's like imagine going to a restaurant, like, all right, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's the same way with blood work, and it'd be really interesting to see like what I'm deficient in. I know I am deficient in vitamin D. Majority of people are. I had a weekly tip about that. Supplementing vitamin D, making sure you get a lot of vitamin D because it drastically changes how not only you feel but how your body functions and your overall health. So it's really important. So seeing what you're deficient in, and you think of like how many times I tell this story to a lot of people, and kind of like why I want to start doing blood work because it's like not a normal thing. I'd say for most people, I think it should become a normal thing, especially for guys. But how many times have you known someone who's just like kind of gotten a regular checkup or like, oh, like I had to start having a pain in my chest or like my back or like my leg or something. They go in for some small thing and then they realize like, oh, they have like stage 3, stage 4 cancer. And it's like, if we didn't catch this earlier, like you would have died. Or because we didn't catch it earlier, people only have like a few years to live. Like I've heard so many stories about that. I'm like, what is one way to a lot of stuff is hereditary and there's a lot of stuff out of people's control, but there is a lot of stuff in our control as well. And one thing is just kind of, like I said, maintaining, knowing what your baseline is, knowing how, like how your body works, how it functions, what you're deficient in. That way you can kind of, your body will tell you when something's wrong and checking up once a year. I know I've heard of guys like checking like once every 3 months their blood work to make sure all their levels of everything are good and nothing's out of the ordinary. And then you can kind of see and check up. It's like, all right, this reading is kind of off. Let's look into it, and you can kind of make a solution from it rather than like you go in one time because you had like hip surgery or whatever, and then the next time you check your blood levels is like 5, 6, 10 years later. And by that time, something could have developed, and you'll be in trouble. So, blood work, knowing what your baseline is, knowing what you're deficient in, that way you can address your body's problems. Just because stuff happens, and you have to make adjustments to your body and to your life. So, test yourself. All right, diet. I'm not going to go super in depth into a ton of these, but just kind of hitting on a bunch of points where I think it's interesting. So, this live is could probably be a little bit shorter just because I'm not going to dive in super deep unless there's a topic that kind of interests me a little bit. But diet, I think diet's super important. I put it in front of exercise and in importance just because that's like diet is, you think of food, you have to think of food as like a tool to fuel your body. Not like, of course, you can treat food as like it's a luxury. You can have nice things. You taste good food. I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, food is a tool for your body. And if you're not on really a vacation or kind of doing something for that, and that doesn't mean you can't enjoy food. Like I love pizza. So I had pizza last night. I make some kind of my own mini pizzas, which are calorie macro friendly for what I'm trying to do with my diet right now. So it all works. But you need, that's the baseline thing, is like food is a tool to fuel your body for you to accomplish stuff during the day. And that doesn't just mean eat whatever you want, because I think that's where a lot of people run into trouble. They kind of like, oh, I'll just eat whatever I want, and then they start getting out of shape. And typically when people are younger, but now it's actually changing too. People, when people are kids and they're younger, they have super fast metabolism. They can get away with that. Like, I mean, kind of with my genes and how my metabolism is, I can get away with that too. But 10 years down the road when I'm 30, then it's not going to work like that. And people tend to move less the older they get, just because they get an office job, they get a day job, they're sitting around all the time, they're not going to the gym as much, they're not exercising as much. Um, because they're getting older, their body might hurt a little bit more. They might not be getting as much sleep. Your body aches, so you're like, oh, I'm gonna miss the gym today because like I'm kind of sore, type of a thing. That just builds on itself, and before you know it, you're not in great shape. Your diet's out of whack because you're pandering to convenience rather than health. And I think there's a good combination and a balance of both. But that's kind of where diet gets thrown out the window, exercise gets thrown out the window, and people start becoming unhealthy. And you can see that reflected in the majority of the average American today. There's a reason why Americans look the way they do, weight wise, and like Japanese people look like the way they do. It's like I was looking at numbers, and like I said before, it's like 60% of Americans are like overweight, and then look at the percentage of Japanese and it's like overweight and obese. It's like single digits, like 4%, which is true. Like I've lived in Japan, and very rarely you see someone that is overweight. And just like lifestyle, diet, exercise, they hit all the things that I'm gonna, maybe except for sleep because they work a lot, but um, they hit all the things that I'm kind of trying to emphasize for a lot of dudes. So yeah, having a balanced diet, so good variety. I think the most important thing is obviously proteins, especially just because I like to focus on muscle building and maintaining a certain physique. So protein is the building block for that, to increase your muscle, to maintain your muscle. So you want to have good quality proteins and a lot of it. And then I'd say healthy fats are really important just because your body needs healthy fats to function. Like that's how your brain works. It feeds off of these healthy fats. Fiber, of course, yeah, like your fruits, vegetables, all of your vitamins and um, minerals that come from a lot of that stuff is important. And the number one thing, a huge thing too, is just what's up, Garrett? What's up, Steve's? Garrett, big guys here, and look what I got. I got a mic. I'm using it for the mic for the YouTube, so hopefully sound quality on YouTube goes up, but I'll try to use it for like my weekly tips and stuff. So follow your advice. I got a mic. Um. Anyway, what was it talking? Water. Water's super important. You see people all the time. They're drinking sodas. They're drinking. I mean, I actually like sparkling water. So, but nothing really beats just like normal water. Like I got this huge water jug right here. It's almost a gallon. Like, I drink like one or one and a half of these every single day. And the average person, the average dude, should be drinking close to a gallon of water a day. Yeah, sparkling water, top tea. How do you know that your friends are true friends? Give them a bunch of sparkling water. If they spit it out, and like, what are these bubbles? You kick them out of your friend group, right? Top tea. But water is super important. Keeps you hydrated. It keeps you healthy. It flushes your body out. So drink a lot of water. And it's gonna make you pee a lot, but that's okay. You want that pee to be clear. And when I was talking about blood work and kind of checking for deficiencies and everything, supplement for your deficiencies. Like I said, I am vitamin D deficient. Majority of people are, especially being here right now in a kind of older climate that doesn't get as much sun, especially during the winter. It's important that you supplement for that stuff, just because you're not going to get. I think there was like a map of the world showing where people get adequate vitamin D levels, and it's like if you don't live anywhere near the equator or below a certain longitude or latitude, long, la, I forget which one is horizontal, east to west, but you don't get enough vitamin D, so you have to supplement for it. So taking vitamin D, I was taking like 20,000 IU's of vitamin D, which is actually a lot. People like I ran out of my prescription for my super high concentration vitamin D tablets, but I take the normal ones now, and I take like 3 or 4 of them every single day. And the average person probably doesn't take anything. Maybe like one of those. It's like, okay, cool, that's good. No, like you need a good amount of vitamin D, and vitamin D in guys, and I'm sure women as well. I only kind of looked at how it affects guys, but it leads to a lack in vitamin D, it lead to more cancer, more illnesses, more terminal illnesses, uh, less energy, less motivation, more subject to depression. It's a lot of bad side effects if you're not supplementing, making sure you're getting enough vitamin D into your body. And that goes for a lot of other vitamins and minerals as well. So that's why diet is super important. So maintain your diet. And then second part of the equation, first one's diet. Second one, you know what, exercise. I'm a big proponent of going to the gym, being healthy, being active, just because that's what we're supposed to do as humans. Think about our ancestors, like back in the day, like they lived outside, they were running around all the time. If you weren't physically fit, you did not survive. And we live in a way different world now. And that doesn't mean you have to have like 8-pack, 6-pack abs, even though I'm a big proponent of it. If you never had one, then you should. Pretty awesome. But you should be able to have a baseline strength. Like if you're a guy, you should be able to bench like at least 135, I'd say. Or I guess let's put this in terms of your body weight. You should be able to at least bench your body weight. And like do push up, do a pull up, and stuff like that. Just practical strength because you'll need it. That strength is true is like I'm convinced it's a thing. Like when guys become dads, they just become like, naturally stronger for some reason. I'm pretty sure it's like a scientific thing too. They produce. Actually, I don't know if I think they might actually produce less testosterone when they have a kid, but I digress. Sorry, getting sidetracked. But strength, and not only strength, as obviously I'd say is a very core part of exercise and maintaining yourself physically, but I'd say flexibility and mobility as well. Like that's the yin and the yang. You can't just be this meathead, giant, strong guy and have zero flexibility, zero mobility. Like I think about like, granted, all bodybuilders aren't the same, but you think of like a ton of these bodybuilders. I'm like, all right, they had to like run a mile. Could they run a mile without like just dying? Or if like if they had to, I think of just like practical flexibility, mobility. Um, if you have to, like even in sports, I think sports is really good just because it helps maintain your your mobility. Yeah, I think of there's a reason why. I mean, basketball players, they're having to move and cut and run all over the court and do all these things. I mean, even the NFL, the linemen, they're huge, they're big boys, but they can move. They know how to run fast. They have a good mix of strength, and mobility. They're not just like rocks and they just like sit there. Some of them are, but like I'd say most of them aren't. They're way more athletic, like way more athletic than the average person. Of course, because they're professional athletes. So flexibility, and mobility, those are super important things. So keep that in mind. Strength, and then also make sure you can maintain mobility as well. And the big thing with mobility too is just I'd say and strength is just prevents injuries. Like think about that person that always gets hurt all the time. They're super frail, probably not very strong. The core's not very strong. They're probably not very mobile. They're probably not very flexible. Like even in weightlifting, like you have to have good mobility in order to prevent injuries. There's a reason why LeBron James, ironically, he's hurt right now, but there's a reason why he's been so dominant, such a good NBA player for 20 plus years into his 40s. It's because he has the good combination of strength, flexibility, mobility. He's not outright just the strongest guy he could be. He's like he's probably like 250, 240, 250. He could easily be like 270, but he's not, just because when you when you sometimes you'll sacrifice, like if you get super super strong when I bulked up, like I sacrifice flexibility and mobility for sure. But then also when I'm cutting down and focusing on flexibility and mobility, I am sacrificing strength. But you can balance the both of them. Making sure you just like track. I'm like I said, I'm a big proponent of tracking. All right, I have a couple questions. My guy is Roddy. How's it going? The guy from Grand Rapids, not from Chicago. What different vitamins do you take? So actually, I'll go ahead and kind of talk about my supplement stack I'm taking right now. I'm not going like super crazy, just the typical stuff. So I take a daily vitamin. It has a bunch of different vitamins in it, so it's just a multivitamin. Take that every single day. I also take um, a omega-3 fatty acid, like fish oil pill as well every single day, just because I don't think you can really get enough of it, and everyone should be getting a lot of that. That's where it goes in the diet, the healthy fats. People you need fish just because you need that omega-3 in your body. That's how your brain functions. Um, so I make sure I take that. I don't eat fish a ton, especially where we're at right now. But I mean, when I was in Japan, I ate a ton of fish. So omega-3, I think everyone should take that. And then I also take, like I said, vitamin D. Make sure my vitamin D levels are good. And then also, like at the end of the day, if you can get a lot of this stuff from just like food, it's awesome. But a lot of the times you can't. So um, just because my diet right now, I don't eat a ton of vitamin C and I don't drink like a ton of juices. So I do take a vitamin D supplement every other day or so. Same with I take zinc just for immune health. I also take magnesium. Magnesium is a really good one as well. For the longest time, I had cramps all the time, and it helps with your joints and your muscles and your ligaments. So that's a really good thing. I take a magnesium pill every single day. What else? I think that's it. But yeah, I take like a decent amount of supplements, but nothing crazy. I'm not taking like ashwagandha and what are like the other ones that all these like bodybuilders are taking? No, but I think you should supplement what you're deficient. All right. Um, so yeah, I was talking about exercise and knowing your body fat percentage is really important just because, and obviously you don't need to like track it every single day. I don't track it every single day. Look it up and track it every like 3 months or so, every 6 months. I do track my weight every single day just because that's a thing I like to do. But just like knowing like how much you weigh and those rough things, and the more you kind of do it, the more you can kind of eyeball it. So like right now, I'm like 185, 186. I got sick, so I drop a lot of weight when I get sick. So I was like 190, and then I dropped like 5 or 5 pounds just from being sick. But right now I'm probably like I can see my abs. I don't have like a crazy six pack right now. I'm like crazy lean. So I'd probably say I'm around like 11, 12% body fat. It's just a rough estimate, but probably somewhere around there. But it's good to know that stuff. When I was bulking, I was like 200 pounds. Cannot see my abs at all, contrary to what my friend Spencer thinks. But I was probably around like seven. I was like 15 to 17% body fat, but nothing like super crazy. I'd say even when I bulked up that much, I was crazy strong, hit a bunch of PRs, but you could still tell I worked out and I looked relatively good, decent, and a lot better than the average person. So just knowing that stuff is I think is useful knowledge. All right, so that's exercise, and I've talked a lot about exercise and lifting and balancing out strength, mobility, and practical exercises. I think are important. Sleep is important, super important. There's the guy, I forgot what his name was. He's on Joe Rogan, and he's like the percentage of the population of the world that can function off of less than 8 hours of sleep without having any determinant of physical or mental activity is like, if you round that to the nearest like a hundredth of a percentage point or something like that, is it would be zero. So essentially, there's like 0% of the population that can function fully. And that doesn't mean, because there's definitely people that sleep for 5 hours, 6 hours, and they can function and they can do super well for years, for decades, for their whole life. But not getting a certain amount of sleep, especially the important part is REM sleep, making sure you're in your REM cycle and you're getting a certain amount of time of that, because that's the most important thing. Then you're going to take some sort of mental, physical hit in some way. And yours might be less noticeable than other people, but nonetheless, it is a detriment to yourself for not getting enough sleep. And I can get away with a lot of stuff. I'm young. Um, and sometimes you just kind of have to pull stuff without sleep. There's not every single day, you're not going to 100% be able to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If you're a young parent, you have young kids, you have a baby, you're probably not going to get that for a while. But it's important to make sure you know that, and the reason why it's important. And I haven't looked into it a ton, just because I think I will eventually when I start working my full-time job and I start making more money. I have more discretionary income, but I would love to get something that tracks my sleep. You get the Aura ring. I've heard of a lot of people getting that. Rich Cooper uses that, tracks his sleep, and just like I said, it gives you a baseline. It's kind of what I'd use it for. I know people have like Whoops and stuff that kind of track that, as well as physical activity. But I think it's really important to make sure you know when you're getting quality sleep and when you're not getting quality sleep. And there's a number of things that can help you get better quality sleep. First being the mattress that you have. You think about people spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on their wardrobes, but their mattress, they're like penny pitching on it. So make sure you get a good quality mattress. I know once I move out of this, get my own place, can get my own mattress, I will get a nicer mattress for sure. And it's not going to be a ding twin. But yeah, investing in your mattress, investing in blackout curtains, make sure there's no light, or I mean, you get one of those mask things. I mean, I did a ton of stuff. Whoops, too expensive from my guy. No, he's talking about Oura rings too. Yeah, Oura ring. I definitely want to try getting one of those. Whoops. I don't. My brother and my sister like super into Whoops, and all their friends. Actually, I think they're like kind of not into it anymore. But yeah, it's the whole like pay per month thing. But the Oura ring is just kind of like a one-time purchase. And then, oh, we got On Hell in the chat. Let's go. It's been a while. I will beat you in 2K. Uh, but blackout curtains, getting one of those eye masks. I used one of those when I was in Japan. Worked amazing. It was so nice. And I think the key also is like people wake up in the middle of the night. Do not check your phone. Like that's the worst decision ever. Like I'm sure. I wonder if there's studies. I want to look at if there might be studies, but it's like you check your phone and it's like usually 5 minutes before you wake up, the worst feeling in the world because you're like, oh, I'm so tired, and then you can't fall asleep for those 5 minutes, and then you end up just waiting for your alarm to go off. But um, I wonder if there's studies because if you like wake up, you don't check your phone, and you kind of go back to sleep, it might in reality have been 5 minutes that you went back to sleep for, but it feels like hours, and you feel way more refreshed. So yeah, make sure you don't check your phone. And the big thing is like blue light too. I haven't done too much research into it. I know Rich has a whole like monologue on blue light stuff, and because he's super big into that. Blue light has a big effect on like how you sleep at night, a big effect. Like there's even like studies done if you put in your pocket as a guy, like it can mess with your sperm and like your hormones and stuff. And uh, yeah, there's like a ton of stuff just because a lot of the stuff is very new technology. I don't know how like the wavelengths from the phones and the satellites and the Wi-Fi and stuff affect people per se, just because it's a relatively new technology. All right, So we got a couple comments. Got my guy, big guy, Gear Steve's Whoop Tracks more probably, but the ring is so minimal. I agree with that. Just because I don't know, I'm not a big like, and people wear it on the offhand, so I don't know. I might try it out. We'll see. Um, but yeah, if I would definitely get the ring just because it's kind of like all I care about. I don't really care about like tracking my steps and stuff like that and the quality of my workouts. Like I could kind of care less. So ring makes sense. All right. And then I have on hell. What's your advice on post workout recoup? So that is a really good, important part of just maintaining your health is after you exercise, especially a good workout, you need to make sure you recover. I did this thing called the 4x4x48. Um, Still deciding whether or not I'll do it this year. I don't know. I might miss it, but we'll see. I might do it later on, maybe in April or something like that. But essentially, you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. It is brutal, and this is like you start at like a 4 p.m. on like a Friday, or like noon on a Friday, and then you go to you run 4 miles at 12, 4 miles at 4 p.m., 4 miles at 8 p.m., 4 miles at 12 a.m. the next day, 4 miles at 4 a.m., and then 4 miles at 8 a.m. And then you continue that for 48 hours. So you do that a total of how many times is that? 12 times? Yeah. So you end up running 48 miles. It's insane. And I did that past 2 years. Whether or not I'll do it this year, that's still to be determined. But my first year, I did not recover, rest, recoup my body at all. I just ran and I came home. I didn't eat enough calories. I wasn't making sure my body was, doing well. I wasn't rest. I wasn't stretching. I wasn't icing my muscles. I wasn't heating my muscles up before I was running again. I literally just like ran, came home, laid down, like slept if it was in the middle of the night. Maybe ate some food, but I did not do that much. And then the last like 2 or 3 legs of that thing, that challenge, my legs locked up and I could barely walk. So I limped the last like 2 or 3 legs, the last uh like 8 to 12 miles. It was miserable. But the second year, last year I did it. I paced myself a lot more, wasn't running as hard. I was prepping my meals. I made sure I had enough calories, even though I didn't really feel like eating diet, like appetite wise, just because I was expending so much energy. I was like, I'm not super hungry, but I need to eat these calories anyway to give myself energy. Made sure I did that. And then before my runs, I would stretch. I would use heating pads. I was heat up my muscles so that way I was ready to go when I was running. And then afterwards, I would cool down. I would do ice baths. I would ice my body, and that worked so much better. I of course was still hurting just because 48 miles is a ton of miles, and just the schedule you had to run was insane. But I felt so much better, and I was able to complete the whole thing without really any super big issues. I had a little bit of a hamstring pull at the end, but I mean, what can you do about that? But as far as post workout, kind of for like a normal person that's not doing something as crazy as that, just your typical stuff. I think sauna is really good. The hot cold therapy is really good. So going back and forth from like really hot room or even using heating pads. Like if you don't have access to a sauna or a steam room, and then you don't have access to like a cold plunge or something, you can easily use heating pads. You get them at the store for like 20-30 bucks. They're a really good investment. And then you can also get just ice packs. So cold therapy, making sure you stretch. I think stretching is really important. Stretching doesn't get as much praise as it should just because, like I said, flexibility, mobility. It's the yin to the yang, the yang to the yin of strength. So make sure you stretch, make sure you're flexible, and also make sure you get enough rest. That also doesn't mean that taking too much rest. It's actually very few people statistically overtrain. Like you still have the chance of overtraining, but very few people overtrain. to the point where it's detrimental to your like gym gains or your physical gains that you're working out for. But make sure you just rest. I have usually 1 or 2 days a week, and depending on your circumstances, like you might not be able to do this, but I'd say try at least 1 day, or at least like majority of 1 day. Um, I just got a notification from the Mavs. Oh, they better win, beat the Pelicans. But at least 1 day a week, you should literally try not to move that much and just rest. That's usually Sunday for me. I usually just chill. I'll go to church, kind of do my church responsibilities, and I'll come home and I'll chill majority of the day. So I would recommend that. Um, all right, my guy Abe is Roddy, my Mexican brother. When are we going back to Nippon? I was thinking about going back to Japan after I graduate. Still potentially could do that, but I don't know. I like want to do it, but at the same time, like like it could be making money. I'm in the mindset. I'm like, if I'm not making money, I'm spending money, and that's usually true. So I don't know. Hey, if you're down to go, maybe like I don't know, June or something, or even later on during the year, like I'd be down. And also another big thing is like I don't want to go by myself because I think that's lame. So if I have like a serious girlfriend or like a wife or like a good friend or something, then I'd be down to go back to Japan. All right. Angel is also asking about supplements on recovery. Um, as far as supplement wise for like recovery, I don't know a ton of like supplements that are like, all right, like you take this to like recover. I mean, for like sickness and stuff, I usually just pop a lot of like vitamin C pills and zinc for overall just immune health long term. I know calcium is really good. All right, yeah, I guess stuff like that. So you can take calcium pills. I mean, I drink a lot of milk, so that kind of fulfills my calcium goals. But magnesium's really good as well. It's good for your bones, your joints, your muscles. I typically took that because I cramped up a lot in my calves, so I started taking magnesium, and I haven't really dealt with that much. Um, yeah, so but that'd be something I'd probably look into as well. But that's why we have Google. So we got Chat GPT, we look this stuff up. All right. I talked about sleep, blue light, I think, and then getting older. I'll kind of like wrap up with this. Obviously, I'm a young dude. I'm 25, so I'm not like necessarily getting older, but I mean, that's the nature of stuff. The older you get, the more your body deteriorates, and you can't do the stuff you used to. I mean, I know tons of people that are 30s or 40s. They're like, yeah, the frustrating thing is like, especially with like exercises and sports, you're like, you can't do the same moves, you can't run as fast as you used to. You might be able to lift more, but your I guess I'll phrase it like this: your recovery time for you to recover from stuff increases as you get older. So, for example, if you go super heavy with deadlifts or something on Monday, typically what you would recover in a couple days, you can do deadlifts like in 2 or 3 days after that. It takes you a week when you're 30 or 40. So just adjusting for that, and you adjust your lifestyle. Like you can't just constantly pound your body and beat your body down and not give it time to rest and recover. So that's the thing. So that goes into injuries, adjusting for being older, exercise and lifestyle as well. And and like I said, when you're older, you get more of a day job. Potentially, you're sitting down more. You're not running around as much. You're not walking as much. You're driving more. Um, you're not eating maybe as healthy stuff. You're taking takeout a little bit more. You just have to adjust for that stuff. So maybe that means like eating out less, a couple times a week, or every single day, or just going up, taking a walk. A really good way, especially after lunch, because even when I'm working and I eat lunch and I come back, start doing work after lunch, I feel super groggy, super sleepy, and like everyone feels that. A really good thing to do, and it's really good to one help your digestion, two kind of like get more steps in. It's good for overall health, and you can burn some calories doing it. It's like after all of your meals, go out just for like a short 15-20 minute walk. And that helps you keep more alert. Like I said, it does help with digestion and you just feel better overall. And it doesn't allow the food just to kind of like sit in your stomach and you just feel so tired. And also getting older hormones, like mainly testosterone, I'd say it's by age of 30, every year, your testosterone drops, I think, by 1%, past 30. So, like I said, that goes with blood work, making sure you test your levels. And I'm not really a big proponent, nor would I recommend people getting like TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, especially when you're like in your 20s, 30s. I try to do as much stuff naturally as possible, just because once you start doing that, yeah, you'll feel a lot better, but it basically you lose the ability to create testosterone naturally. That's basically what it does. So you're gonna have to be reliant on it, kind of like from here on out. But if you're like 40, 50 or something, and your T levels are really low, and you're starting to get tired, fatigued, and stuff, and go on TRT, you'll see a big difference, and you'll feel a lot better. All right. And I'll wrap up with this. If you have any last questions, just let me know, put in the chat. But at the end of the day, I think your purpose helps you live longer. Like, how many times have you heard like there's this old couple and the the like husband dies or the wife dies, and then a couple days later the other spouse dies, and the same thing happens when people kind of like they lose their purpose. And the purpose, like basically what keeps you alive, keeps you motivated, that's what allows you to wake up every single day and be excited for your day. So I mean, I go back to kind of what I was talking about with purpose in one of my earlier lives, when like you just need a purpose. Like, it can be your career, purpose. You can have a couple different purposes. There's like your spiritual purpose, where I talk about like plan salvation, returning back to God. But I think there's also like your like temporal, like lifetime purpose, because that's like a little bit more than the scope of your lifetime. The spiritual purpose, or eternal purpose. But it's like something that you basically you'd do every single day for free, and you could potentially build into a career. You can monetize it. The big thing is like building something that's bigger than yourself, and then having an impact on people's lives around you, and something that you can scale. Just because if you have something like that in your life, like you're not doing stuff for yourself anymore. You're doing stuff for a bigger reason than yourself. So your body will break that down in your mind, and give you energy, give you motivation. You create discipline in your life that way. You just wake up and you're like, hey, I got some stuff to do. I'm on a purpose. People are relying on me to do this stuff, and your body will respond and you'll be able to function. So I think that helps you live longer as well. That'd be interesting to see, like I said, studies of that as well. But I did look into a decent amount of studies, but that's something I would want to listen to and look into. But appreciate everyone that tuned in. Appreciate the comments, the questions. Keep it up. If you have any potential comments or suggestions on future topics. I know I've talked to a lot about just like investments, a lot about exercise. I haven't talked about diet yet, so I might do one on diet, but this one's just health in general, just because I believe if you're not healthy, health literally equals wealth. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're not healthy to be able to kind of like enjoy that wealth, then what's the purpose of it? And you could be like the best person. I think of like Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, he's balling out right now because he's healthy. But it's like you could be one of the most talented big men, NBA players. You're on the 75-year anniversary team, one of the best players that ever played the game of basketball in the NBA. But if you're not healthy, that doesn't mean anything. Like, you don't make an impact. You're not helping anyone. You're not showing people how good you are. So stay healthy. Make sure you stay on top of your health. Know what your baselines are, track stuff, just know how your body works, and yeah, live life and continually improve. And as modern medicine technology improves and it develops, it gets better, we can just even use this stuff to even more of our advantage than before. So peace out, everyone. I got a game in an hour. you go to the playoffs. So wish me luck. Catch you all later.